Pecha Kucha 169, Predator: The Essential Comics Volume 1, and some face studies. So the Predator comic I bought is a bit of a strange one because actually I watched a YouTube video where someone walked me through the opening story, and then I walked into Forbidden Planet, saw the book on sale, and decided to buy it anyway because I do love me a good bit of Predator. It's I like the art direction of the monster. I like Predator 1, the film, an awful lot. I don't really care for the rest of the films. I've played a fair amount of Predator games. They're not particularly endearing, the new one that's on the release included. But so this takes place in New York with Detective Schaefer and his partner investigating some grisly murders in a super hot summer, which is where predators tend to do their business. They're stringing up a drug deal. Both sides of the deal have been murdered. As Schaefer's investigating, there's a lot of cover-ups going on. A General Phillips gets involved simply to tell him, because he's related to Schaefer from the movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, to back off. Schaefer decides to do no such thing. He goes back to the crime scene and finds the criminal returning to it. They have a fight in quotation marks. Schaefer gets his ass thoroughly handed to himself before he gets tagged like an animal and thrown out the window. Actually, I think it's a sidekick. UFC dudes would be quite pleased. Schaefer spends the rest of his life seeking for revenge. He goes to basically where Predator 1, the movie, happens. He finds the place where the Predator at the end of the movie blows himself up. Schaefer, Schwarzenegger's character, is MIA. Nobody knows if he's alive or not. This comes up later in the comic book series as well. Basically, the Predator hunts Detective Schaefer from New York back to the jungle. They have a fight, and the Predator falls down a cliff, gets impaled on a spike, and we see him no more. The other predators who come to this planet for a good old time, it's their vacation place where they hunt people for personal pleasure. They're not so keen on this. They're hovering invisible over New York City, looking to cause mayhem. Schaefer's partner has the original Predator's helmet, so he can see these ships, and he's like, oh snap. So Schaefer gets back to New York, and they kind of scramble to put together an army of street thugs to fight the Predators. All hell breaks loose on the streets of New York City. The military show up. Then it starts raining. The Predator laughs, and him and his buddies leave because this all got a little bit out of hand. There's no sport in this anymore, so they decide, screw you guys, we're going home. Great book, very very dated from the 90s, but I love it. But then I'm not going to be objective about it. So I was trying to draw just faces this week, figure out how to be a little bit more accurate with noses and mouths. This is Jin Kazama from Tekken, because when I draw random people, I deviate towards beat-em-up characters. So I basically was drawing his face and a few others, but his face predominantly. I drew it several times, directly from reference, not directly from reference. Switching brushes, I'm trying to figure out how to be accurate, how to use the tools I'm using, figuring out how I should be using reference. And in the end, I was trying to absorb what I'd seen and then redraw it, but not actually copying from it, using it simply as a reference for the things I wasn't quite sure on, switching from pencil type brushes to mechanical type brushes. Cross-hatching I love, but it's a very difficult thing to do well, every line. I found some random picture of Bruce Lee not being angry, being very disappointed. I don't know where I found it, but I knew I had to do something with it, so I was using this to draw from reference while I was waiting for Warhammer Vermintide 2 to download, which I bought from Steam this week. And one of the biggest problems I have with art in general is you can already see from here that there's this guy and he's got a bit of a sad, angry kind of disappointment look on his face. Do I need to spend 30 hours rendering this to get mostly back to where we started with that photograph? I don't know. But I did. And I was experimenting this time using a spray paint brush at a very low pixel size. I'm amazed at what I can achieve using the tools in ways that I've discovered, forgotten, and rediscovered. small pixel size with a large canvas works out quite well for me. And on the right hand side, you can see how small all of these things are on the canvas. I'm zooming in quite a lot. So I applied some general tones pretty badly with the spray brush, just trying to kind of fill out the subtle forms of Bruce's face. It's, I don't know, maybe 30% done. I went back in because the expression on his face is so particular. I'm really trying to nail it, but it's kind of silly trying to nail it without just tracing it. This is the kind of circle of nonsense and controversy I regularly find myself into. But it was good to just sit there and draw and try and figure out what I'm doing, what I'm seeing wrong. I also kind of accidentally started stumbling into my own YouTube analytics because I have a lot more than I realized. It breaks down my channel viewership into all kinds of things that would matter if I had viewers. So in theory, I can tailor what I make to be more profitable going forward in terms of views. And like I mentioned earlier, Vermintide 2, Warhammer Vermintide 2, I bought it on Steam sale for £6, had a lot of fun. Multiplayer, melee, co-op centric game. I was just playing it with bots, trying to figure it out. I enjoy the lore of Warhammer, so it was great to be walking around in parts of it. Great stuff. And Sad Clown of the Week is either me, or it's my first negative comment ever on YouTube, or it's the combination of him and me. It was about my Artist's Complete Guide to Drawing YouTube video I did, where I'm just talking about the book I've got and what I think about it. This guy disapproved of me disapproving of something in the book. And one of those milestones has been achieved. I've got my first negative comment. It's right up there with one day, when the Smiley Show is a thing, I'm going to come across some Rule 34 hentai of it. And I'm going to be simultaneously absolutely disgusted and delighted that the real world recognizes me as a part of it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, keep it that way. It's for the best, right? So that brings us to the end of Pecha Kucha 169, and I will see you next time.